सलाम, नमस्ते, सत श्री अकाल। मैं हूं डॉक्टर दीप्ति वाघमारे। दीप्ति टॉक्स के नए नए पॉडकास्ट में आपका स्वागत है। 2025 is here and I'm here with amazing personality that I met last year. कौन है वो जानते हैं कुछ ही क्षणों में। बिफोर दैट लेट मी टेल यू, ऐसे कहते हैं दैट वुमेन को एक अच्छे शूज दे दो, शी कैन रन द वर्ल्ड। बट वुमेन के हाथ में अगर कैमरा दिया तो व्हाट शी कैन डू, शी कैन क्रिएट अ मास्टरपीस। सो तहे दिल से मैं शुक्रिया करती हूँ और वेलकम करती हूँ आज के मेरे गेस्ट का, अमेजिंग डायरेक्टर एंड इवन वंडरफुल ह्यूमन बीइंग प्रियंका तनवर मैम। वेलकम टू दीप्ति टॉक्स।
Thank you, Dipti. Thank you.
So Priyanka Tanwar ma'am is a known face to all of us. Last year itself, she created a wonderful, heartwarming film called Mylek, जिसमें स्टार किया था सोनाली खरे मैम, उमेश कामत सर एंड सनाया। So ma'am, let's just quickly let all the audience have a quick look at all your work profile till now. ये रही आपके स्क्रीन पर Little Big George, My Pot of Gold, While It Lasts, The Little Violet Blossoms, a short film called Kash, Something Like Love and Mylek. स्टार्ट करते हैं आज का सवालों का सिलसिला विद प्रियंका तनवर मैम। प्रियंका तनवर मैम, आर यू रेडी?
Yes, sir.
सो ऑन दैट नोट मैम, मैं सबसे पहले पूछना चाहूंगी, एक प्रोजेक्ट था आपका, आई थिंक इट्स अ फ्रेंच नेम, Bonne, Anniversaire, Cherie. Did I say it correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so what is this all about? Because the name itself sounds so heartwarming.
Okay, so this was a film that I made in 2010. That
Oh,
time I was just like, I think 24.
Four.
So that was my first film and I shot it in this room. In this
Oh wow.
and it was a film about, I have made Marathi films. मैंने 2 मराठी फिल्म मतलब फीचर फिल्म बना चुकी हूँ, लेकिन I watch a lot of English films and my dream was always to make a film that everybody can watch. मैंने अभी कुछ सीखा है कि language is not a barrier, whether you make a Marathi, Hindi, English, जो भी है, a film is a film. And if it reaches even 10% of an audience, it works.
Definitely.
So Bonne Anniversaire was a film, मुझे एक black and white film बनानी थी and I wanted to speak about the relationship between a husband and a wife.
Wow.
तो फिल्म वही था, वो थ्रिलर था। प्लीज आप देखना, वो यूट्यूब पे है। That was, and you know, at that time जब हम नए डायरेक्टर होते हैं तो we feel that we know everything, but
Wow.
now when I look back at that film in 2010, which I made in 2010, I know that I've learned so much from that project.
Wow.
So that was my first. Born Anniversary Cherie is about Happy Birthday My Love. So it is a film about a man who's deeply in love with his wife और
Wow.
end में मालूम पड़ता है कि there is a twist in the film.
Wow, lovely.
So that was my first project.
You had written this
2010.
project as well?
Yes.
Wow,
I
lovely.
wrote, I think 3 of my short films I wrote and directed.
Wow.
फिर after my 3rd short film I realized that it's very difficult to write and direct together.
Both.
So I decided that I'll take a little step back from writing and I'll only direct.
Yeah.
And that's why now I work with 5-6 different writers who are
Wow.
my dear friends, and सब अलग अलग लिखते हैं. Some write what is it called, like the genres are different,
Right. Thriller,
and drama,
romantic, yeah.
romance. So I work with them because it gives me a chance to bring their stories to life.
Wow, lovely.
Yeah, so that is the thing.
One day I'm manifesting I'll be writing for you as well.
Yes, yes.
So 2025 को बोलते हैं this is a year of manifestation and completion because number 7 starts for पूर्णत्व, that means
Okay.
completion. So हमारे आज के शो में फर्स्ट सेगमेंट होगा जिसका नाम है बिगिन फ्रॉम द बिगिनिंग। सो आई वुड लाइक टू आस्क, ऑलवेज फिल्म मेकर बनने का सपना था? वॉज प्रियंका तनवर used to think in her dreams that I'm making a film, or was there another plan A?
Okay. So I think when I was young, I don't know, this is I don't know if it was like my subconscious, लेकिन my father used to buy me a lot of, I used to love video cameras.
Okay.
So when my dad used to, my father worked abroad, he used to
Right.
come with a camera, and I remember he got me a Sony Handycam many years ago when I was in school, and I used to love capturing things.
Right.
And I had a group of friends who are much younger than me. Many of them have now migrated to Canada.
Right.
And I remember I shot Dil Chahta Hai, no sorry, not Dil Chahta Hai, Dil To Pagal Hai, and Kuch Kuch Hota Hai.
Wow.
Those were the 2 films which we shot in this house. And time pass. It was fun, and I remember I didn't know what edit was. So what I did was we used to practice. I used to pause the shot, then we used to practice again, and I used to continue from there.
Wow.
So it was unintentional. In fact, I'm looking for those tapes. I don't know.
Wow, I think they'll go viral.
And those friends of mine in Canada always remind me even now that don't forget we are your first actors.
Yeah.
So I
That
used to
was
do
your
that.
first home
Yes,
production.
yes. And I remember art direction, and my mother used to wear a lot of salwar kameezes. So I used to take dupattas, and because I didn't want anybody to see the house, so
Yeah.
I used to use dupattas to
The
create
drapes, yeah.
like drapes just to show
Wow.
that it's another place.
Another dimension.
Yes. So I just feel that that came to me at a much
Right.
younger age.
Right.
I always want to be a documentary filmmaker, but later on, I think I studied. I did my graduation. I finished school. I did everything, and then I didn't know what filmmaker I wanted to be. But then eventually I started assisting, and when I started assisting, I realized that making films like fictional stories will be able to I love documentaries, I watch documentaries, but I realize that I'm not cut out to be a documentary filmmaker.
Right.
So that is how I think the career chose me.
Wow.
I didn't choose the career, like it came to me. It
Wow.
wasn't something that I had in mind.
I read one quote long back. लकी वो लोग होते हैं जिनका पैशन उनका ब्रेड एंड बटर बनता
Yeah.
है. So touchwood, I think you are one of those people, lucky ones. Moving ahead in this journey of questions, I have one very weird, I can say, question to ask. Now that you've told me you're a writer as well, what's your thought behind an idea? So, for example, you thought of this beautiful story of husband and wife. So, do you take inspiration from your real life
Yes,
while
yes.
writing?
I think I think one of the one filmmaker in many who don't read. I don't like to read.
Oh,
I don't like. I cannot go through a novel. Okay,
Right.
But I love to I take inspiration from people around me. I take inspiration from stories or experiences.
Wow.
So in fact, my father always tells me that it's really surprising that you being a filmmaker and love creativity, you don't like to read books.
Right.
But I love to read. I realized that storyboards.
Right.
I love to read comics.
Wow.
Actually, a comic is a storyboard.
Right.
It is a story in that,
Yeah.
right, how we draw and sketch.
Yeah.
So,
In time stamps.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we do in film.
Yeah.
So I take inspiration and I also get inspired. Anurag Kashyap sir, in so many interviews, he says
Right.
that younger filmmakers are taking inspiration from other films,
Right.
which shouldn't be the case because you have to be your own filmmaker.
You have to be imaginative.
If
Yeah.
you are going to take inspiration from somebody else or something else, then what is your originality?
Right. Right.
I try my best, and they've always told us in film school, and we all know that every story has been told.
Yeah.
Every film has been made.
Yeah.
It's how you make a film.
Yeah. How you give it your
Yes,
touch. Yeah.
exactly. Because a love story can either be they come together or they don't come together.
Yeah.
It's how you add to
Portray
it,
it, yeah.
So even in writing, when I nowadays I don't write, but what I do is I always give when I call my writers or when I constantly talk to them, I tell them what's new, what are you writing. They give me an idea. So first I always look at the film as an audience.
Right.
I say, will I watch this film? All the films that I made. Okay, but I can also beg to differ here because see, I have never ever been a person to watch a film in one room.
Right.
But I love making a film in a closed space where characters. One of my films which I made on my grandmother
Right.
was My Pot of Gold was an inspiration of my life, my maid and my nanny's life.
Oh.
In this house. In fact, the room
Wow.
inside is the room we recreated in the studio.
Right.
So sometimes I also feel that I'm a filmmaker that I might not watch that film, but I would love to make those kind of films.
Wow.
Because I feel when you're in one room and you have actors, it also shows how much the actor comes and meets the director.
True.
Because I feel that actors who can be in one space and hold an audience
Right.
plays a very big role.
Right.
So writing, I think ideas just float. Like I have so many creative people around me. I always
Right.
ask them that, what's new? What's new? Do you have something?
Right.
And for me, inspiration comes, ideas come from the people around me, the experiences. And I also love to know what my writers have. Because see,
Right.
I am born and brought up in Bombay.
Right.
But I have writers who come from different parts of India.
Right.
And they bring in that.
Right.
So it's a challenge for me also to be able. See, I'm very safe. Like I've only made a lot of drama films till date.
Yeah.
I've never done thrillers.
Yeah.
Because I always feel drama is where you can milk.
Yeah.
You can milk content. Like with a thriller, you have to. I don't feel. I still have to. Like for me, it's a big challenge to make a comedy.
Right.
It is like because I feel it. You have to have comic timing.
Agree.
And even for me to do sports film,
Right.
I don't watch sports.
Right.
So I said tomorrow if I have to be challenged and if somebody comes to me with a film on sport, I will have to do my own research.
Right.
And in that way we grow as directors,
Agreed,
and writers. So like I was saying, the idea comes from inspiration around me.
So I'm actually very intrigued to know what's your journey of your transformation from a writer to director. What was that point where you felt direction is my calling?
So I think it was not selfish, but you know what? Every film becomes your baby. As a writer, also, you want to be close to that project, and when you also, like you're saying, once you start writing, a lot of people, because see, there are people, we are creatives in OTTs or are producers. They are people who know how the film will sell.
Right.
I have learnt of late that initially we were only thinking of picture banana hai, release karna.
Right.
We never think of our producers.
Right.
People who put in money in our films are the people who trust us.
Right.
Right? They know how the film is going to get to the audience and reach to the audience.
Right.
So it's very important for us to even value and respect that. Sometimes as writers and directors, we get very possessive about our work. Right? Like if I wrote something, producers will come to us and say that, can you change this? Can you change that? I was a very stubborn younger filmmaker because I used to always say, no, why should I change? But I have learned over a period of time that great ideas come from, like I work with Sonali Anand, my producer and actor of Mylek. From she's a creative person. She has more experience than me as a actress. And I realized that my DOP and me, like Mridul, my DOP of Mylek, and me, both of us always listened to her. And from the 10 suggestions that she gave, 8 of them were always valid. So we used to always see everything was valid, but we used to check and see, is that suggestion valid for what we are doing right now? So I have learned to come halfway and realize that we have to let go at one point of time. So as a writer, I got so possessive that I never knew what battle to fight. Should I keep this idea and fight as a writer, or work on it as a director?
Work with a team.
So I realized, I said that I'd rather have somebody else get a script who I am 100% convinced. So then when a producer comes, I am on my writer's team. And I tell my writer that, okay, what are your apprehensions? Sometimes the writers say, sometimes as directors and producers, our writers don't get any, the stature that they need to get. After film is released, only the actors and the directors are spoken to. Writers are even not called for interviews.
I am going to come to that point.
Why are writers? If the writer was not there, how could I have made my film? Even with Mylek, my writer Inyara Kamble, who wrote Mylek, if I hadn't got that thought and called her up and told her, listen, this is an idea, and if she had not given me that 2-pager, how would I have pitched it to Sonali and Sanay?
True.
I had no money to give Inyara. She just said, okay, I will write it. I will write a synopsis, and that synopsis is what Sonali ma'am liked.
Wow, lovely.
So that's why I decided that, Priyanka, you can't do both. Hats off to people who can do that. Maybe in the future I can, when I am settled in terms of like, okay, now I know I can take time to write. I can go back to it, but I just feel that it's better to have somebody who can take your ideas and make it better.
Wow, lovely.
So I prefer having writers who come with better ideas, because sometimes, we tend to get stuck. Even as a director, when we get footage and come and sit at the edit, I realize that it's very important to get other people to watch your first cut, because as directors, we're so attached to a project that we tend to forget and visualize a project differently. What I got from Mylek is very different from what you got from Mylek.
Definitely.
So that was the point where I said, now it's my time to shift. I can't do both, because I need to concentrate on only one thing. And get a story, get a beautiful story And I'll tell you, there are lots of times my writers also, I tell them, I know writers get possessive even with me.
Yeah.
They tell me that, don't change this, don't change that. I said, listen, I will never change what you've written.
Yeah.
But once a script comes to me,
Mhm.
actors also come on board.
Right.
I've been telling all my producers of late that,
Right.
when they say hit picture banana hai,
Yeah.
I said, हम सबको hit picture banana hai.
Mhm.
But from script to screen is a very
Yeah.
big journey, right? It is what the writer gave me, what I put in. The actors bring characters to life, right? Casting is important, production design is important, cinematography is important. Without my team, how will we make that film?
Right.
So I also say that it's not only the actors and directors who make a film, it is every HOD.
Yeah.
Without them, how will I go on set and make a film?
True. True.
You know?
I agree
So
to
I
each
know
and every
I've
word.
gone beyond your question. So like I think that was my turning point where I said that, writing
You have to
is,
step into
you have
the
to
writing.
just let the writer
Yeah.
give me a story and then I take it from there.
Okay, so before we go into an interesting part in today's talk show, there's another bouncer question for you. Do you think so in Indian film industry, creative people are lagging behind and only the commercial faces of the movies are being pushed?
I feel that we as a child, I also watched all these commercial actors and
Right,
directors.
right.
Recently, I watched Bhool Bhulaiya, which came on Netflix, and whatever I've seen
Definitely.
his films and enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah.
Now people have changed in
Yeah.
their viewership, But I
Yeah.
feel that I watched it.
Yeah.
I'm watching it break karke, but I'm too enjoying it for fun
Yeah,
as an
yeah.
audience. Okay?
I can totally agree.
I'm thinking to myself that I cannot even make a film like that because I don't think like that.
Yeah.
I loved it. I'm not saying, I'm not putting, it's not a film that I don't want to make or nothing like that.
Yeah.
I would love to make something, but I'm not cut out as a director to make a Bhool Bhulaiya.
Right.
Like I feel every director has a style.
Right.
Recently I had a conversation with a group of my friends who very positively told me, because I always told them, I said, sometimes when I go for meetings, there are so many producers. I respect all my producers. But when we go for meetings, there are so many people who want to make films, who come to me and come to my writer and they say, कि, ये करना है लेकिन ऐसे करना है वैसे. So sometimes I always tell them, I said, sir, ma'am, you are calling a writer and director, but you know everything that you want to see on. So coming back to your question about the Indian film industry, I think there is a viewership for everything.
Yeah.
I just feel that there should be producers out there. Like if you take for example, Girls Will Be Girls with Richa Chadda and her husband Ali Fazal.
Yes, wonderful film.
Yeah, then even Apna, All That We See Is Light.
Wow,
These are beautiful films that the directors have actually captured, and those are directors' films.
Yeah, yeah.
But there were producers out there who trusted that.
Yeah.
Even films like the film Sir, right?
Yeah,
The Sir, which came out.
one of my favorite films.
Yeah, it was such a beautiful film.
Yes.
And beautiful stories that are independent, that are very niche. But the thing is, I don't blame our producers, because the first question they ask me is this: will this film make money?
Yeah.
Right, because now I started realizing that okay, I'm pushing ki nahi, अच्छा hai. They are putting in the money.
Right.
I'm not putting in the money. Right, so it's very easy for me to say that. So that's why I'm saying it's not that our Indian industry is behind or anything. I just feel that our Indian industry needs to be a little open,
right? And
there has to be some kind of, because see, big films are doing well.
Definitely,
big production houses are doing well. I just feel if big production houses open, like a smaller section, because films can be made in smaller budgets
as well. Yeah,
right. I understand big budgets you don't need, and there are a group of filmmakers who are used to making films within 5 CR, within 2 CR, and releasing it quickly.
Right.
I don't know anything about production. I don't know anything about distribution. My job is, मुझे पैसा दो, I will work with you for 1 year. I will give you a complete product.
Right.
So I am nobody to talk about what happens later.
After.
But I have started to empathize and understand when a producer says that it is taking us time to raise funds.
Yeah, but ma'am, what I think is our audiences are also too critical these days about all the performances. कई बार ऐसे होता है कि I don't want to use the word, but कई बार trashy films चल जाती है. People love it, but then there are films like Kala, where they don't even get to release on big screens, and they're missed. Like I think there's ocean of content everywhere, even on Netflix and other OTT platforms. ये फिल्म्स वैनिश हो जाती है.
Absolutely.
Ideally they should be seen by everyone, they should be watched and then criticized. So do you think so कि फिल्म कैसी देखनी है ये भी ऑडियंस को पता होना चाहिए?
No, you know, I think Dipti क्या है, when we were young, we only had Doordarshan.
Right.
We watched everything. Now there is so much variety,
Yeah.
right? Like Kala, we will understand because we are creative people. You are an actor. You also act. I direct, and so the thing is, what that we view it differently. I go for films. I've got maybe this thing of film from my mother and father and grandparents because they were also film buffs.
Right.
They took me. My mother got me when she worked abroad. She got me every single VHS of films that released.
Right.
Okay, so that's how I got exposed to films at a young age,
Right.
which trained me.
Mhm.
So I'm just saying is that I watched. You also watch because we have an entire world of cinema to watch.
Right.
Some people
Yeah,
are
they
not
might like.
exposed.
Yeah,
They
they
might
might
like.
like it.
My father and mother, coming back to that day, we go to watch films that are English films. Three of us have different views. I love it. My father says, "What is this film that you got me?" He says, "He let's go out in the interval."
Yeah.
So in my own family, there are people who have different viewership.
Right.
Okay, Tarak Mehta ka Ulta Chashma.
Yes.
My dad tells me what kind of films I have to make, but he watches Tarak Mehta on loop, repetition pe.
Yeah, that's like a stress buster.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
saying now my dad is watching Tarak Mehta, but at the same time he criticizes what I make.
Right.
Now there is a shift everywhere. So actually, I don't blame anybody. I don't blame our audience.
Right.
There is an audience for everything.
Yeah.
I just feel that there should be, and like you rightly said, that I also have so many OTTs that I've subscribed to. How much are we watching?
Yeah.
There is Amazon, there is Netflix, the bigger ones,
Yeah.
right? There is
Only
Jio
a
now.
little one person can watch.
How much
Yeah,
can we
true.
watch? And now people's span is so less that now you've heard the new thing is micro dramas.
When I started my podcast, before that I had read a story how the word podcast was made. So Apple company came up with iPods where we used to listen music, and then they were like, "Hey, why only music? Let's make some other content." This was like much before social media, so that people can keep listening while they're traveling, while they're cooking, while they're jogging.
Nice.
That's how the podcast were released or made, and they were only audio podcasts.
Right.
So now also whenever I'm consuming the podcast content, initial few minutes I'll watch, later on I'll keep it somewhere and do my other work.
Right.
So that's how it is. We listen to it, we listen in say breaks or otherwise also, but it's mostly heard because we are so busy.
Right.
Just couple of days back I came across one very interesting article. It was related to Netflix, that Netflix has been instructing writers that they have to write and the character has to say what they are doing. So for example, we are drinking something. So ideally पहले दिखाते थे कि character कुछ पी रहा है. Now they have to say I'm drinking coffee or tea.
Okay.
Because the viewers are doing something else. They are either working or using their phones.
Okay.
Watching also we are multitasking.
Right.
So then there is no point in making complex things.
Correct.
We want something easy going, feel good.
Right.
But ये writers पे अन्याय नहीं हो रहा है that they don't even get to write how they want to write.
That is always the thing. That has always been the case where all my writers say that, we are told what to write.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Now I understand people who are in the market, who are at the big, at OTTs and all, they know what work and don't work.
Right.
Actually, I don't think this is very grey, this area.
Yeah,
Because
it is very
it's
great.
not that they don't want, sometimes we go for meetings and all,
Yeah,
and say, "Arey, these people are not filmmakers, they don't know why they," but they are the ones who can sell. Tomorrow, if they tell us, "Arey, these directors and writers are complaining about वो उनको बोलो ना बेच के दिखाओ." Right? So it takes two hands to clap. We need them and they need us.
Agreed.
That's the thing.
So moving back to another question from Kala, जैसे आप बता रहे हो कि राइटर्स को कई बार इंस्ट्रक्शंस मिलते हैं, तो ये अब की बात नहीं है, ये पहले भी हुआ था. सिंगर या कॉम्पोजर का कैरेक्टर है and Varun Grover is playing the lyricist and probably Sahir Ludhianvi. So the music director is telling him not to use very harsh words or Urdu difficult words which are even difficult to pronounce. लोगों को उसका मतलब ही नहीं पता है. So he used to say नहीं, I will still keep using those because they have a deeper meaning. So I think very few people can relate to it. So hope so. Moving ahead, एक छोटा सा क्वेश्चन है मैम आपके लिए. दिस वॉज अगेन नॉट पार्ट ऑफ आवर डिस्कशन. डायरेक्टर जब फ्रेम में देखता है, ठीक है, तो वो कैरेक्टर्स को देखता है या फिर एक्टर्स को देखता है? ये मुझे हमेशा से बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग लगा है कि कई बार मैं देखती हूँ डायरेक्टर फ्रेम में देख रहा है, अपने कैमरा के स्क्रीन पे देख रहा है, एंड देन एट वन पॉइंट दे डिसाइड कि ओके दिस वाज द परफेक्टली शॉट सीन, तो व्हाट डू ही और शी इज इमेजिनिंग देम? सो सोनाली खरे में उनको सोनाली का कैरेक्टर दिखता है, सनाया में सनाया का कैरेक्टर दिखता है, या एक्चुअल सनाया दिखती है?
No, I don't think so, because I'll tell you what, when we read the script, pehle, so I prep a lot because I come from a school of thought, because I've been an assistant with Excel and with American Productions, where I've worked with mentors who are now big directors today. I've worked with Rima Kakti, I've worked with Vinay Vaikul, Mrunmay Lagu, Road Scoop, and they were all my mentors. And I've seen even Anniversaire. Obviously, I've learned a lot from him because I have worked closely with him as an assistant director, not directly. But I just feel that we prep so much that you read the script multiple times. Okay, so what happens is the story enters your head, and the first time I visualize, I think for me personally, when I read a story the first time, I see the entire film in my head.
Wow.
I visualize everything from the moment, and that's when I realize that okay, this is, I know I can direct a film like that. Okay, if a writer says something and I cannot visualize it, that means I know that this is not for me.
Okay.
I will not be, not for me, no, I will not be able to do justice to that film.
Agreed.
Right?
Yes.
So I visualize everything, and I think that is the, after that, how they say the first impression is the last impression.
True.
Like when you saw me the first time, there was something that you thought, and then it's very difficult to break that.
Right.
So the whole frame of a film is in my head.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So what I do is, then every scene is a, if I see, for example, let's say in Mylek, there was a scene where Sonali is fighting with Sanjay Monesar, saying that, he says that what have you done?
Yeah, what have
so
you
she
done?
breaks down, and it was a one take where Sonali had planned and she cried. And sometimes I think because you're so involved in the film and I know exactly how the scene is going to come out, when I was an assistant, I always asked my directors, how do you know it's an okay take? How do you know if it's a safety take? How do you know if you need one more? But I think when you're on set and when you're so involved in a story that you're trying to tell, you just know. I can't tell you how. Like I also asked this question, and after making so many short films and feature, not many features, but 3 feature films, I realized that you know, because and I don't look at Sanaya or Sonali, I look at how the character is. Right? It is not Sanaya and Sonali, because they are not like that.
Right.
Will Myra or will Sharvari act like that in that? I will tell you now, talking about this scene, Nadatif, there was a lot of people who watched that scene from my family who lived abroad and friends who lived abroad and my friends who lived in Bombay. This is your answer to audiences. That films have to be released to the right audience at the right time. Okay? Because in India, when we argue with our parents, we break down and we are over the top. But abroad, if I was doing an American or a British film, that actress would have never had that breakdown. That actress would have just told her father that I understand what you said.
That's where the
eyes would have just welled up. She said, how would you know? Have you ever been there to support me? And she would have just walked and moved out. They would have not been,
I think that can be another topic of discussion.
Yes. So that is what I feel. Like you said, characters definitely. And even answering your audience question is, every audience, and every audience will only empathize with the film if they have experienced it. I have experienced it.
If they have seen it, even
and if they've lived it.
With
Mylek, there was a big group of audience who said that, Priyanka, we didn't empathize with the film.
Okay.
And those were the people who I realized weren't mothers. Of teenagers.
Right.
Okay. Now, I also am not a mother of a teenager. So I'm not even married, but my inspiration was Gilmore Girls. There was a show which I watched extensively.
Now I can recollect.
There were 2 people who gave us feedback, said this is an Indian Gilmore Girls. Because subconsciously, I was also working to make a film like Gilmore Girls. So that's the thing.
I agree to this now, and abhi mujhe pata chal raha hai, why could I connect it? Because even I'm not a mother, they are married, but I could connect with Umesh's character. I could connect with Sharvari as well as her parents.
Okay.
Because we have been through this, maybe not because of these
Yes,
disputes,
yes.
but in our
Other
younger
things.
age,
Yes.
over other things where parents didn't listen to us and we were hell bent on nahi, we want to do this. Before we come to again a beautiful part of today's conversation, another question from me. Not question, this is more of a confession. As you said that your director always sees the characters. कई बार ऐसे होता है ना. Let's talk about Amir Khan sir. Right from first frame, he's never Amir Khan. He's either PK ka PK or Three Idiots ka Rancho.
There are actors who get into the role that I
Right.
also remember when I was an assistant director, sometimes Amritsar, when he was doing a
Yeah.
particular scene, so I used to always get into that scene right from the beginning. He used to
Right.
immerse himself, I realized,
Yeah.
right from the beginning. Even
Right.
with Satyameva Jayate, there was a
Yes.
serious episode.
Yeah.
Sir always came with that mindset that this is an important episode.
Used to
yeah.
prep for it.
Prep. And
Yeah.
so we are talking about a very senior actor right
Perfectionist.
now. Yes. And with the younger actors, I feel that there are so many actors who can really switch on and switch off.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Sanaya is Sanaya. But the moment she gets on screen, she switches to
My
become
God.
the character. I
Yeah.
only did, and I'll tell you, I don't know if it is as an audience, I don't know. I still feel that there is so much for me to learn as a director. But when I saw Sanaya with her mother on Instagram, on her reels, there was something that clicked for me as a director.
Right.
I said, this is somebody now who I can work with.
Right.
Also, I feel that I work well with the younger generation, like
Right.
with teenagers and with older people.
Right.
Like I prefer making films with a group of like the 20-year-olds and all that. Not that I don't love doing love stories, but I just feel that there's something that I connect with them.
Right.
And I also feel that as a director, I learn from the actors.
Right.
As a younger director, there were two things that I did wrong. I used to enact a scene and tell the actor how to do, which was completely wrong. My job was only to give, because I know what the film is, my job is only to push them and give them direction. My job is not to tell them how to do their job.
Yeah.
I have to just, together we make a film. Right? For example, even with a cinematographer or an art director, I can just tell them that this is how I want my hall to look.
Right.
If I am going to do their job, then why hire somebody with those expertise?
True.
Their style, their art and craft also have to come in, right?
Wow, lovely.
So with actors also, with Sanaya, like I gave you an example of Sanaya, even Sonali. Sonali is so experienced, and what I loved about Mylek is Sonali came with more experience than I did, right?
Right.
But she always, and I'll tell you another person I want to talk about here is Vandana Gupte, Vandu ma'am in Well Done Baby.
Yes.
It didn't matter to her if I was a first-time director.
Yeah.
She, on set, I was her director.
Yeah.
For other actors, it's sometimes what happens is when there are other actors, they feel that, new director, they might not know what they want,
Right.
whatever. But Vandana ma'am always asked me. I should also say that there's a lot of my confidence came from Anniversaire also, because when I was in Satyameva Jayate, second season, I was one of the, I was heading the AD team. So I remember I was very scared because I didn't want to do it. I was never a good assistant director. I feel I am a better director for myself than in comparison to an assistant. So I felt that, I didn't want to head the AD team, but my seniors at American Productions, they said, all my producers, they said, it's not a film, it's a talk show. You can do it. It's not that you have to, make the day or something. So I remember I was sitting with Amritsar for one meeting, and I didn't have because I was so worried. I said, why are they giving me? Then Amritsar asked me, he turned to me in the discussion and said, Priyanka, what do you think? That was where I got my confidence, because I said, if somebody like Amritsar trusts me, why can't I trust myself?
Wow.
So that gave me inspiration, to realize that the moment you start trusting yourself and your craft. Like today, I know there are lots of people who tell me, Dipti, that, which I respect them. There are lots of people who tell me that I am not a good director. Like, which is now people have an opinion and everybody is entitled to their own
critical about everybody's performance.
And I don't feel bad about that.
Yeah.
As a younger director, maybe I would have felt bad. But now I feel that I know personally I am very passionate about what I do and I give my 100%. So if somebody tells me that, Priyanka, I don't like your direction, you're a bad director. I have people come up to me telling me this after watching my films. I said, I respect your decision, but this is what I can do and I know I've done the best.
Right.
I could. If you don't like the films I make, it's your opinion. I can't change that about myself.
Right.
Because there is a style that I follow.
Right.
And even if out of the 10 people, out of 10 people, if 2 people have liked what I've made, I have done my job in
Yeah.
reaching to that audience.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so I get that a lot. Like, I get that, and I'm very glad that people say that. You know, but I just feel the more confident you are in yourself as a director, a writer, or an artist, it
Wow.
shouldn't bother you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we are always learning. You never
Of
know when you
course,
get a
of
chance
course,
to learn.
yes.
So, ma'am, I've come all the way from Pune. In fact, this was supposed to happen right in the beginning of the show, but हम बातें करते गए and टाइम का पता ही नहीं चला. So, सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट चीज मैं आई हूँ पुणे से. So, पुणे की फेमस
Thank
बाकरवड़ी
you
आपके
so
लिए
much,
लाई हूँ.
Dipti. Thank you.
And again, because you're such a sweet person,
Oh,
some
thank you,
chocolates
Dipti.
for you.
Thank
We
you.
are already having a Christmas feast,
Yes,
beautiful
yes,
house
thank
of
you so
yours.
much.
And this is a specially curated mug for you.
Okay, you want me
And
to
if
open
you
it?
could please
Yes,
open it, there's a
sure.
special message for you
Thank you,
with a
Dipti.
beautiful picture of yours.
Oh my God. Wow. Let me see. Wow. This is for me. Thank you, Dipti. And it says, I'm drawn to filmmaking that can transport me. Film can immerse you, put you there. How lovely. Thank you so much. Thank
It's
you.
a
Thank you.
Catherine
Yes.
Bigelow's quote,
Quote,
one
yes.
of my favorite women director.
Oh, I see. How
And
lovely.
I see her in you.
Oh,
And
lovely.
that's
Thank
why
you.
I chose this
Thank you so
quote.
much. Thank you, Dipti. Thank you so much.